Good morning, everyone. Once again, this is Black Forex coming to you with another market analysis video currency breakdown. But before we break down this currency pair and this chart, we have to state that this video is for educational purposes only. This is not financial advice. Okay. Well, we all know why you guys are here. You guys are here to find good, credible Forex content that can help improve your ability as a trader and to help put some extra money in your pocket, especially in these troubling times. Okay? So, with that being said, let's go ahead and get started. All right? So, before let's talk about what's happening on the chart, let's dive into the fundamentals of what's happening with the respective currencies. Okay? Now, technically, we have not had any CHF news come out. The Swiss franc, we have not had any news come out about the Swiss franc this week. We're not seeming like we're not going to have any news coming out about the Swiss franc until Thursday morning around 1:45 in the morning. Always keep in mind your European currencies, economic news events don't come out until between 1 and 5 o'clock in the morning, which is during the London session. Okay. So what we have to do is go off the previous news that came out the latter part of last trading week, and that news was actually very good for the CHF. However, the CHF does have a lot of how we can say dark clouds hanging over the currency and the country's economy, respectively, due to geopolitics and also due to inflation as well, and also due to the FUD surrounding the entire European continent's economy, the fear, uncertainty, and doubt that's being driven by the Ukrainian-Russian war. Okay, and it does not look like there's no end in sight because every time they have peace talks, it seems one country is walking away from the table, and it seems like this time around Ukraine has walked away from the table, which is a little crazy because their forces are not as strong as the Russian forces, but they decided to walk away from the table because they did not like the terms, which means fighting is going to continue on the European continent. Okay, so as long as this fighting continues on the European continent, we will continue to see a whole entire destabilization of the entire European continent's economy, and we will continue to see weakness inside the euro, the Great British Pound, and the CHF, which are the major three European currencies. Okay, so in this type situation, despite whatever good economic news is coming up out about the actual currency, that news is being overshadowed by increasing inflation and also by geopolitics that is also overshadowing that currency, which is making it more inherently weak than from the strength it can gain from its own good positive economic news. Okay, now on top of that, we also have to discuss that it looks like America and NATO are going to be continuing to sanction Russia for its invasion of Ukraine. And these sanctions have had had actually a a reversal negative effect on the entire world's economy. And whereas that the sanctions are hurting Russia some, but it's not hurting Russia as much as they think it is, and it's actually having more of a negative effect on of America, but even more so on Europe, because we can get our natural resources from within the interior of our country due to how large it is, or we can go to Canada or South America for also natural resources too in America. In Europe, a lot of the Western European nations get a lot of their natural resources from Russia. So this is why the sanctions are hurting everyone, but it's hurting Europe more so. And as long as these geopolitical events continue to happen, we're going to see a continuing weakenization of the um, major European currencies, regardless of how good their economic news are. Okay. Now with the USD during Tuesday's New York session, um, just before New York session, going into the New York session between 8:30 to 10 o'clock, we did have a lot of news come out about the USD. We had more positive news than negative news come out about the USD. Then around 4:30 in the New York session on Tuesday, Eastern time, we did have a news report come out about the oil supply, and we see that there is a surplus of oil in the oil circulation around the world, which brings down the prices per barrel per oil, and also brings down gas prices at the pump, which is also further strengthening the U.S. dollar as well. So we should see throughout the mid part of this trading week a further strengthening of the US dollar and a further weakening of the respective European continent's currencies. Okay, so with all that said, now let's dive into what's happening on the chart. So, as we stated in the video prior to this one, that we were going to have an uplift in price to about this general area here before we start to get probably a little hazed out. Now, upon looking at the chart this morning, it does look like you can actually even push up to here or even higher to here. And this is basically solely dictated due to the current fundamentals of each currency before we start to range out and eventually have a drop in price. So we are going to see continue to have a pick up in price, but eventually we're going to range out and do have a drop in price. So we could go as far as here or even here before we have our next initial pick up towards the long side. Okay. But that's more of a long-term plan, short to intermediate type planning for this would be there will be a pickup to price to here, possibly here before we start to see a range out and come down. Okay. But once we see that range is out, we could drop down to here or possibly even here before we continue to go back in the direction of the long position. Okay, but this is all contingent on the current fundamentals for each currency staying the same, which it does look like because of the factors that's dictating the current fundamental strength of each currency has more so to do with geopolitics than actual economic standard intervention. So we're gonna have to see how these things play out. But once again, like we said, it could go up to here, possibly over here before it range out and comes down, or get it to this area here before we possibly range out, come down far as here or here before we continue back to the long side. Okay. I hope that information was helpful for you guys. Happy trading.